Abraham for 4 generations. Okay, our people was in captivity just as they are now, counting all the way from, the 1600s, right? Our people was really being brought over here in the 1400s, but the chattel slavery didn't really officially start to around the early 1600s, right? But our people was here as so-called indentured servants. Okay, verse 16. But in the 4th generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Okay, so keep this name in mind here, the Amorites, okay, which is a Canaanic people, by the way. All right, and it's also letting you know that who enslaved the children of Israel in the so-called land of Egypt, right, which was really Mizraim, okay, a son of Ham. All right, but the Amorites is also a people of Ham from the Canaanic lineage, but the Canaanites was a cursed nation of the Most High, right? So this is letting you know that the sin, which was the iniquity of the Amorites, is not full yet. So that's letting you know down in that land for 400 years who had the children of Israel in captivity, right? Verse 17. And it came to pass that when the sun was set, when the sun went down, but you can say that too, that is sunset, right? And it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. All right. Verse 18. In the same day, the Most High Power made a covenant, okay, with Abram, saying, unto what? Thy seed, okay, thy seed have I given this land from the river of Mizraim, which is so-called Egypt, onto the great river, the river Euphrates. Okay, so that was the land of Canaan, all right, which was in Africa still, present-day Africa, right? But that was the land of Canaan, from the so-called Nile River, which is the river of Egypt, all the way to the Euphrates and the Tigris, right, in the upper part of the so-called Middle East, right? And then it says here, the Kenites and the Kenizzites and the Cadmonites, verse 20, and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Rephaims, verse 21, and the Amorites, all right, just as it says up here. The iniquity of the Amorites are not finished, right? In verse 16, right, in paraphrasing, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. All right, so and you jump back down to 21, it's letting you know the people that's in the land of Canaan, all right, and the Amorites and the Kenites and the Girgashites and the Jebusites. All right, so that's letting you know who's in the land of Canaan from the so-called river of Egypt, which is now known as the Nile River, up into the Euphrates and also the Tigris. All right, just like I said, which is in the upper part of the so-called Middle East, right, in the land of Assyria. Okay, so keep that name Ammonites in mind as we go to the book of Exodus chapter 34. Okay, and we're going to start at verse 1. And it read, and the Most High said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first. All right, so everyone should know what that is, right? Even if you're a so-called Christian who goes to Sunday's church, you should know what that is when you hear that, right? And I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables which thou breakest. Okay, so the Most High said, I will write. All right, so that goes for all of you so-called infidels and non-believers, right, who love to say, well, who wrote the Torah? Who wrote the Bible? That Bible was written by man. The laws of your so-called God was written by man, right? But all throughout the scriptures, in which I'm going to do another video on that today, not today, but on another day, right? Who writ the scriptures? It's written in the Bible, man. It's written in the scriptures, right? And it's only like a few scriptures, but it's enough to cut you guys to the soul, man, right? So it's letting you know right here that the Most High said, I will write. I'm going to write on those 2 tables of stone, man. Not you, Moses. I'm not going to tell you to write, all right? I'm going to write it with my finger, right? So right here, it's letting you know who wrote the scriptures, man, who wrote the law, okay? The so-called Torah, which is the laws, by the way, right? The Most High wrote that, man, right? Not man, not who you think wrote it, right? The Most High wrote these laws, man, okay? So getting back to the book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 2. And be ready in the morning, come up in the morning onto Mount Sinai, and present thyself there to me, okay? In the top of the mount, verse 3. And no man shall come up with thee, neither let any man be seen throughout all the mount, neither let the flocks nor herds feed before that mount. Okay, so the Most High was serious, right? When you come, you make sure that you by yourself, you're lonely, okay, when you coming to see me, right? You're the only one that I'm requesting, okay? Not even Aaron, right? Just you, right? Verse 4. And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moshe rose up early in the morning and went up unto Mount Sinai as the Most High had commanded him. And he took in his hand the 2 tables of stone. Verse 5. And the Most High descended in a cloud, okay, or in the cloud as it's written here, and stood with him there, and proclaim the name of the Most High power. Okay, so according to the biblical scripture, the clouds is the dust of the Most High's feet. Okay, and that had to be some sight for Moses, right? Because usually when the Most High appears, right, what we see is dark clouds, thunderstorms, right? Lightnings, thunders, right? Strong winds. Okay, so that had to be something for Moses to endure, man. Even in the movie, when you look at the 10 Commandments, okay, when you look at the 10 Commandments, whenever Moses went up on Mount Sinai, right, you always had this scene where, the winds is going crazy, it's blowing like crazy, man. It's hard. You hear all of the thunders, you hear all of the lightnings, right? That's the Most High, man. When you hear those thunders and stuff like that, that's the Most High's voice. When you see the lightning, that lets you know that the Most High is present, okay? And when you hear the winds, when you feel the winds, those strong winds, 50 miles and better, 75 miles and better, 100 miles and better, right? Those are the angels that's accompanying the Most High, right? The cherubims, the seraphims, okay, the ophanids, right? Those are the ones that's creating the strong winds, right? When you see the hurricanes, when you see the tornadoes, right? And then when you hear the thunder, right? Which is boom, 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 right? That's the Most High's voice, man. That's the Most High's voice. And then when you see the lightnings, right? Those are the lightnings that's coming from the Most High as he's making his grand entrance, right? So you could imagine what Moses was enduring, man. Like he's experiencing this all up front, man, right straight to his face, man. Right? You literally standing under and thunderstorms and lightnings, man, that's flashing all over the place. Right? So that must have been something to endure when the Most High, and then he was by himself too, right? It's not like he was with Aaron and his sons or whatever and other Levitical priests. He was by himself and during all of this himself, man, right? So you know, strong, man. He had to be fearless, right? But that had to be put in him through the Spirit by the Most High to be that way, because any natural normal human being, man, they couldn't take something like that. Like me personally, I don't even think I can take something like that if I'm up close to something like that, right? You're seeing all of the thunders, the dark crowds, the lightning, all of this stuff, this flashing all over the place. You hear all of this loud bangs, the loud thunders and all of that stuff, the strong winds, right? The average person couldn't handle something like that, right? So you got to take your hat off to Moses, man, because he actually did a lot for the children of Israel, man, right? When he was consulting with the Most High. Okay, that's why the Most High gave him that glory. And then you had the children of Israel. They was actually scared to look at his countenance. They were scared to look at his face, because that's the glory that the Most High gave on to Masha, man, right? So getting back to the scripture here. Verse 5. And the Most High power descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Most High. So that's the thunder there, right? Verse 6. And the Most High power passed by before him and proclaimed, the Most High power, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abundant, and goodness and what? Truth. All right? So all of this is coming from those thunders, man, right? You could imagine how that sound, right? Just a real bad thunderstorm, right? Your worst thunderstorm that you ever heard, man, right? The Most High's voice was worse than that during that time, man. Like you could just use your imagination. You could picture it, right? Verse 7. Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity, all right? What is iniquity? Sin. What is sin? The of the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, man, right? As it says here, which is the next word, right? Transgression and sin. See, this is how it is when you're in the Spirit, right? You're not even looking at the next words that's written. You already saying it through the Spirit, right? And that will by no means clear the what? The guilty, right? So if you're guilty of committing iniquity, which is the transgression and sin, then you're not going to be cleared, man. You're going to get judged, right? Visiting the iniquity of the what? The fathers upon the children. Okay, it didn't say the iniquities of the mothers, all right, or the women. The iniquity of the fathers, man, okay, upon the children and upon the children's children, okay, which is the grandchildren, all right, onto the third and the fourth generation, all right. So just like I said, you know, that's your example of so-called reincarnation right there. The Most High said he's going to revisit the iniquity of the fathers, okay, which is the children and the children's children, which is that man's grandchildren, okay. That's 3 generations there. And then he said up into the 3rd and 4th generation, right? So this, like I said, you know, all of this right here ain't coming from how I feel or what I think or how, I, perceive things to be. All of this stuff right here is scriptural, man. All right. So the lineage goes through the dad, man. 3 to 4 generations up. Okay. So like I was saying earlier in the video, if you want to determine who you truly are, you have to go through your dad's lineage from 3 to 4 generations, man, right? It doesn't have to be the 4th generation, but if it's at least the 3rd generation, if your dad a so-called African American or black man, right, or from the land of so-called Africa, which is named after Scipio Africanus, really, which is a Roman general. So it's really not Africa, but this is what it's known as today. So that's the reason why I'm using that word. But if your dad, which is your great-granddad, is a so-called black man or African American, then that would make you from the so-called tribe of Judah. All right. Or You can be a Benjamite or a Levite. Okay, those were the tribes that was on the west coast of Africa when they was taken from that land in captivity. All right, so if you know your great granddad, all right, if they was an Israelite, then more than likely you're an Israelite. But if you don't know who your great granddad is, or let alone your granddad, then how can you claim that you're Israel, right? Especially if you're very light complected and your hair is not even coarse, man. Like, like, come on, man. So this, like I said, is the reason why I'm doing this video here, right? You have a lot of mixed breed people that's in our faith talking about their Israel, but they don't even know who their granddad is. Some of them don't even know who their dad is. They just going off the lineage of their mom, man. And it's because their mom might be a so-called black woman, they're claiming Israel, right? But their dad can be a full-fledged Caucasian, could be a full-fledged so-called Native American, which is Siberians, by the way, right? And they're not even Israel, man. They could be Hamitic, right? So this is the reason why videos like this have to be done, man. Okay, in sincerity and truth, by the way, right? Verse 7. Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. All right, so by no means whatsoever will he clear idolaters, sinners, willful sinners. Okay, you know, people who tell you that the scriptures aren't real, it's a fairy tale book. People who's going around saying that the full moon is the new moon. Okay, people who's going around saying that it's okay to break Sabbath. You know, if you got to go to work, you got to do what you got to do, right? People who don't give a damn about wearing fringes.